This is my third year. The time has really flown. It doesn't feel that long ago when I was kind of pitching the Strand to the outgoing director of the festival, Geraldine, and she was biding her time waiting for Damien to come on board. And I have a very clear memory of meeting Damien to talk about where a music strand like this could fit into the Kilkenny Arts Festival, something which I thought, and I'm sure lots of people in Kilkenny had thought for a long time, the festival was screaming out for.
Oh yes.
and I think the timing was just right. They were very amenable to this kind of new idea, very open to kind of a breadth of programming, that would allow for a curator, any curator, to really kind of embrace the full breadth of what exists in that alternative music kind of realm. But not to make it a kind of standalone strand, to make sure that it fit in with the ethos of the festival, that it fit in with what people in Kilkenny City wanted to listen to, wanted to see in terms of live music.
So who's coming up this year then?
There's quite a varied range of musical acts and artists, and some really insane people. I think most notable of those is a guy called Damo Suzuki, who has been a personal hero of mine for a long time, a real kind of trailblazer when it comes to independent kind of music, and is very much responsible for spreading a kind of DIY ethic amongst independent kind of aspiring independent musicians. I think the band that are coming from Belfast, and So I Watch You From Afar, are probably the best live act in Ireland at the moment, and they fit in with a kind of tradition that the likes of Damo Suzuki was a very big part of. Eric Friedlander is coming from New York. He's a really unusual musician and has been part of a pretty ambitious and experimental scene over there for the last kind of 10 to 15 years, and approaches the cello in the most unusual of manners. There's a lot of Irish acts on this year's programme.
I see Mick Flannery is in there.
Yeah, Mick Flannery, Halves, acts from Kilkenny. Adrian Crowley is coming back. Again? Yeah, I really think the show last year with Mick Turner and Lowe and Adrian was a pretty special night.
He had a good year with the Choice Prize as well in the bag.
Yeah, and Adrian, was only too delighted to come back, and a very good friend of his, and I guess a kindred spirit musically, Valerie Francis, who was another Choice nominee, is going to come down and share the bill with him. Nice. So I'm really looking forward to that, and that particular day for the festival, I think, is going to be kind of pretty special, because you have Adrian Crowley and Valerie Francis playing that afternoon, and in the evening you have one of my all-time favourite bands, and I think one of the most unusual, and I think one of the bravest bands that have emerged in the last 15 to 20 years. That's Tindersticks, playing in St. Canice's Cathedral.
Better venue.
No, but there is no better venue, and I still can't quite get to grips with the fact that the people responsible for the cathedral are allowing this to take place. It's a really great sign of how progressively they think to allow this kind of event to take place. But having said that, the events that have been there last year, and certainly that started there with Spiritualize, which was probably a very, very provocative way to break the ice, as it were, has, I think, shown everybody that it doesn't really matter what the event is. Crowds will come along to a space like this and they'll respect it, and they realise what a gift it is, and what a great opportunity it is to see bands and acts like this in
somewhere like it.
Mick Flannery, may prove to be a kind of dark horse at this year's festival. I think his songs and the just that kind of melancholic tinge that exists in his music is going to marry perfectly with the setting of St. Canice's Cathedral. Tindersticks will too, but I just have a sneaking suspicion that Mick Flannery is going to look around the space and go, I'm home.
Deadly. One of the free events as well, you're leading a discussion at the first weekend of the festival.
Yeah, this is something that has been on the back burner for a while, and I've been in dialogue with Mary Butler, the arts officer in Kilkenny, for quite some time about kind of co-hosting some kind of event which allows, I think, musicians and artists to get some kind of insight into what's involved in getting your music distributed. You know, we're all very much aware of how that process has been opened up and democratized in the last kind of 3, 4, 5 years, and creating a virtual presence for yourself on the internet and being able to distribute your music via that channel is what most people are doing. But at the same time, the first step into that virtual community can be quite daunting. And how do you start it? And how do you make sure that you're protecting your interests and you're protecting what you've produced? And I think the best way of kind of sharing that knowledge is to get people in a room who are doing it. And who have chosen a more kind of independent route to distributing their music. And these people are doing it successfully. They're doing it on their own terms. And I think that's really important, because I think one of the most intimidating things for a young band or a young artist when it comes to disseminating their work is this fear that they'll have to make an enormous compromise in what they do. And I think what we want to address is that yes, there's still that route, that is still a viable route. The industry is still, maybe on its last legs as we know it, but that is still a viable route. But if you really want to maintain autonomy and you want to maintain control, then there are so many alternative routes for you to get your music out there. And I think some of the musicians and some of the kind of record people or record company people who will be involved in this kind of seminar, I'm really hoping that they'll be able to share their experience, because I think that knowledge is going to prove invaluable to the next generation of musicians and artists who are looking to disseminate their work.
So loads on offer. Essentially.
Exactly. Loads, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, if you could sum up the word Strand in one sentence, what would it be?
The word Strand is really about musical exploration. There's no other way of defining the Strand, and I think that leaves it pretty much open.
Cool. Well, Matthew Nolan, thank you very much.
Thanks again.